investors are still seeing Brazil as one of the best nations in which to put their money.
Now, Russia and China have agreed to help each other increase their clout in global affairs.
India and China together will shape much of this century for all of us.
Such is the way of the world, you can never know just where to put all your faith and how will it grow.
BRIC stands for Brazil, Russia, India and China and is an acronym Goldman Sachs' Jim O'Neill wrote about in 2001. He argued we needed to focus on how the world may change as well as how it was doing. Soon after, O'Neill wrote an article entitled "The World Needs Better Economic BRICs." In this article, he showed that before the decade was over, the economies of Brazil, Russia, India and China would become much bigger shares of the global economy. 2 years later, Goldman Sachs published a piece which tried to guess how the world may look by 2050. They showed that before 2050, China could overtake the US to become the world's largest economy, possibly reaching as big as $45 trillion, almost 20 times bigger than it was in 2003. They also showed that India could grow as large as $26 trillion, 50 times bigger than it was in 2003. Also, the potential growth of Brazil and Russia would be so big they would each become members of the largest economies in the world. It is important to remember that in terms of wealth, which we would measure as GDP per capita, the BRICS economies collectively will not become as wealthy as those of the G7. The United States in particular is still likely to be a lot wealthier than any of the BRICS economies in Japan. Of the BRICS economies, Russia's economy is the one that might see its wealth become as large or as high as that of many of the developed countries today and in the future. It seems to be no surprise that BRICS phenomena is attracting so much attention amongst investors and the general public at large. During the 45 years after O'Neill's article, if the BRICS pursue good economics policies, their economies may become the biggest in the world. But why are precisely these countries experiencing such economic growth? Culture is more often a source of conflict than a synergy. Cultural differences are a nuisance at best and often a disaster. In such a globalized world, where firms and companies cross the oceans to enter new markets and open paths of new economic profit, culture may assume a huge role. China is a country with a history of 5,000 years, a country rich with culture. About 2,500 years ago, the philosopher Confucius advocated moral values. The core of Confucianism was the importance of a hierarchical obedience with an emperor leading the country. He brought the message that is still followed by the Chinese, that there is harmony when every person knows its place in the society. This has controlled the way of thinking of the elite in China for many centuries and today. In 1949, Mao Zedong banned Confucianism. Mao's doctrine of the struggle of classes and the dictatorship of the proletariat conflicted with the ideas of Confucianism with its hierarchical relationships. In 1978, after the introduction of the market economy, the prosperity contrasts strongly increased. Large groups in China could hardly benefit from the rapid economic growth of the country. Mainly to eliminate the impending danger for the social unrest, the current leaders of China want to go back to the harmony model of Confucius.